Hello, my name is Scump, and guys, it happened. They're adapting my favorite game from my childhood, The Guy That Eats Green Beans, into a feature-length film. It's gonna be great! He was eating refried beans, they couldn't even get that right. Adaptations. They stink. There are some good ones, but there are also a whole lot of bad ones. Now, I'll say it, I am a big fan of the Vodgam, but I'm also a movie enjoyer, which is why it's such a shame that there are so many examples of franchises I love being absolutely butchered on the big screen. Like, so many of them aren't just bad adaptations of the game, they're just bad in general.
Well, that was idiotic. Off to hang myself. Off and left.
But you know what? I still watch them. What can I say? I love garbage. And while a ton of these movies are absolutely abysmal, a lot of them border on that bad but in a funny way line. The Resident Evil movie is a perfect example of that. Stupid, but also the greatest thing you've ever seen. And you know, it's kind of why I was hoping Injustice would be. And man, it was not that. Back in 2021, it was announced we would be getting a movie adaptation of the 2013 fighting game by a small indie dev. You might not have heard of them, NetherRealm Studios. I don't think they've ever made anything noteworthy, but Injustice was pretty neat. When the movie was announced, I was actually really excited. An adaptation of a pretty good fighting game story, animated in the same vein as any other DC animated film, and even being given the hard R rating. Maybe I should have separated hard and R in that sentence. The second I saw the trailer and saw Superman impale Joker with his fist, I was sold. Then the movie came out. I didn't hear a single good thing about this movie, so I never watched it. Until now! And my conclusion? This is not Injustice. Like, not even close. It might have similar plot points, but almost nothing about this movie other than the first 15 minutes even slightly resembles the original game or its story. I'm not even sure if they even tried to adapt it. It's like they wrote a story about an evil Superman, then slapped the Injustice name onto it just to rope in the people who like the game. And the story they wrote wasn't even that good. So I'm gonna bitch about it. So right off the bat we have a problem. The story of Injustice is pretty short, but still multiple hours long. And there also exists a comic prequel to the story that is 6 full issues long. And this movie seeks to adapt elements of both. So how, pray tell, did they manage to fit 6 full issue comic books and a multiple hour long video game into a single movie that is only an hour and 15 minutes? Well, they didn't. So the story of the game is that the Joker tricks Superman into killing a pregnant Lois using scarecrow gas to make him believe that she's Doomsday. At the same time, a kill switch put inside of Lois by the Joker triggers a nuke that blows up Metropolis. This causes Superman to go insane with grief, killing the Joker and setting up a one-world government called the Regime to prevent a tragedy like this from ever taking place. So basically, this is that one bad day that Joker always talks about, except for Superman.
All it takes is one bad day. That's how far the world is from where I am. Just one bad day. I'm the Joker, baby!
And let me tell you, the Joker is one hell of a rage baiter.
First Krypton, now Metropolis. People you love tend to blow up, don't they? You think you can have a family, that locking me up will magically reform me. And they'll be safe. So big, so dumb. Now run along, so I can break out of here. I've got lots of planning to do to top this. I know it's soon, but think you'll ever love again? Maybe you won't kill your next family.
Most Justice League members either join out of sympathy or because they're actively scared of Superman. Batman, however, actively fights against Superman and launches a resistance group against the regime. But with his one primary countermeasure against Superman locked behind a scanner that requires all of Superman's closest allies, all of which had either been killed or sworn allegiance to him, he teams up with Lex Luthor to bring in alternate universe counterparts of those Justice League members in order to fight the regime and unlock the kryptonite weapon he plans on using against Superman. There's more to it, but that's pretty much the story. There's some sprinkles of Damian Wayne seeing Superman as a father figure instead of Batman. He also slides in that he may have accidentally killed Dick Grayson.
But Superman's been more of a father than you ever were.
You stopped being my son when you killed Dick Grayson. He was my son.
Superman also has a romantic relationship with Wonder Woman. Catwoman joins the regime to protect Batman. Hal Jordan becomes a Yellow Lantern alongside teaming up with Sinestro. There's a point where Superman kills Shazam for speaking out against him, causing the Flash to question if they're really doing the right thing, ultimately leaving the regime to join the Resistance. It's a lot. And while the movie gets the inciting incident right, the distance between the game and the movie becomes instantly evident when, during the events of said inciting incident, they killed the Flash. Forget his whole character arc, he's dead. By a saw blade shot out of a wall. You know the Flash can react faster than light, but I guess he was just too slow to see that one coming. Doesn't matter that he was Scarecrow gassed, that's dumb. Almost as dumb as that moment from Injustice 2. The Injustice series just has a knack for nerfing the Flash, I guess. Also, Scarecrow's dead, so fuck his involvement in the story as well. Other than that, the intro is a pretty solid rip from the original story, except they got the one person who can't do a Joker impression to voice the Joker.
After all these years, Betsy, you really need reasons from me?
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
You know, I actually find that really weird, because for the most part, every other voice actor did a fine job. It's just the Joker that they couldn't get right. I just think that's weird. After the tragedy, the Justice League meets in the Watchtower and a bunch of characters show up only to dip and never be seen again. Shazam is there. He leaves, so we never get to see his murder at the hands of Superman. Aquaman is there. He leaves, so we don't get to see Atlantis' struggle against the regime's rule. And it's like, why bother introducing all of these characters to the story just to have them leave and never show up again? I get it's a lot of characters in a short runtime, but why have them at all if you don't actually use them? But this is an issue that's prevalent throughout the whole movie. Characters and plot points being introduced and dropped instantly. Here's Flash, he's dead. Here's Green Lantern, he's never seen again. Here's Raven, she's never seen again. Here's Adam, he's dead. Like, why? Why add them just to use them once and never again? It feels so pointless. Like, Mirror Master, Huntress, Captain Atom, Hawkman, not Hawkgirl, all introduced only to drop out of the story with zero explanation. But you know who they did introduce and actually became a major player in the story? Ra's al Ghul. You see, Ra's builds a Mazo as a safeguarding robot, and Superman lets it loose on Smallville because he's a fucking idiot. So, it starts to kill civilians. Who would have thought? It's Ra's al Ghul. This causes all the heroes to come together to defeat him, only for Superman to immediately turn on them again, which means he only existed to get all the heroes in the same place for the final confrontation. Fantastic! And adding them is so unnecessary and only serves to water down the original plot, of which there's basically no connection at this point. Like, instead of the war between the Resistance and the regime like the original, it's all a story about Superman being manipulated into teaming up with Ra's al Ghul, a person who wasn't even in the fucking story to begin with, so that he can unleash a Mazo and fulfill his will. So basically, not fucking Injustice. Speaking of unnecessary additions, Nightwing. You see, while Dick Grayson is still killed in the movie, he comes back as a ghost called Deadwing. Okay, cool, but why? There's no point, and he doesn't really do anything except possess Damien while he fights Ra's al Ghul at the end, which honestly just robs Damien of the completely pointless redemption arc that they tried to force on him. So why is he here? They also removed the romantic connection between Superman and Wonder Woman in the movie.
I'm sorry, Diana. You've been more than a friend. But it's just too soon.
Okay, that one was probably for the best, but I do have to mourn the loss of this fucking amazing scene.
You were offered amnesty, Deathstroke. You should have taken it.
And missed my chance to battle Superman's rebound girl?
How dare you? I'm an Amazon.
An obsolete race with predictable techniques.
Holy shit, you fucking killed her, dude!
But that also assumes that Deathstroke was in the fucking movie. He's not. So in saying all of that, I do have to ask, were they even trying to adapt the game's story, or even the comics? Cause I cannot understand why they would make the plot revolve around Ra's al Ghul and Amazo, two characters that weren't even in the damn story, instead of the actual plot of evil Superman. Now, both Ra's al Ghul and Amazo did appear in the Injustice 2 comic, which as far as I can tell, this story is based off, but not only does that take place after the first game, but I also really don't like Injustice 2's story. Not that matters, since this movie isn't supposed to have anything to do with Injustice 2. You can't bring in plot elements from a sequel comic book before you can even get the plot of the first fucking entry right. Otherwise, you just end up with a story that makes no sense whatsoever while completely forgetting the source you were trying to adapt, which has been all but ignored. Because Superman doesn't even set up the regime in this movie. The entire point of the plot of the original game, and is completely absent. This is stupid. They also try really hard to make Injustice Superman sympathetic, even though the point was that his grief was no excuse for the atrocities he causes. It was a major point that the things he does still crosses a line no matter what his justifications are. He is not sympathetic. He is evil.
Humans need strong leadership. We have to save them from themselves.
Whose son are you? Jor-El's? Or General Zod's?
He is supposed to be absolutely uncompromising because he has forsaken everything he stands for, which makes the final confrontation in the game all the more impactful when the real Superman shows up and shows him how far he's fallen.
I am this world's savior. I protect it. That's what's happening out there? Protection? Disobedient children will be punished. Children? We're not gods. We don't decide who lives and who dies. The decision is mine. Lois's death doesn't just... He stole her from me. You stole this planet's freedom.
In fact, both Superman and Wonder Woman have moments in their story where they basically completely tear down their alternate universe versions and their ideology. Oh yeah, by the way, this was supposed to be a fucking multiverse story. I think they forgot about that. Or did they? Because in the last 10 minutes, with all the characters in the same place having just dealt with Amazo, the movie then remembers, oh yeah, this was supposed to be a multiverse story, and brings in an alternate universe Superman. Yeah, let's introduce the multiverse as a major plot point in the last 10 minutes, brilliant! Now, credit where credit's due, there was a mention of the multiverse somewhere along the lines, but it was so brief you would never expect that it would actually mean anything. But then in the last 10 fucking minutes, it suddenly becomes important, like they finally remember that they're trying to adapt a multiverse story. But I'll give the movie this. The fight between the two Supermen is actually pretty neat. Especially since they added the detail that Superman uses his super moves from the second game. He also uses the one from the first one, sort of. Well, I'll give them that. That's pretty neat. But get this, the alternate universe Superman actually gets his ass kicked. What? Injustice Superman makes a good point that he isn't holding back anymore while the alternate one is? Well, that means that his hate and grief actually made him stronger? Which is just an awful thing to think about. But then they pull a different universe's version of Lois Lane, who's pregnant with the child of a Superman who died fighting Brainiac. Just dropping that lore on us, moving along, alrighty then. And this Lois actually convinces Injustice Superman to back down. Are we just gonna forget that in the game, Injustice Superman wanted to take Lois from the original universe so that he can have her for himself?
After I've killed you, I'll bring Lois here. When she sees how I've perfected this world, she'll be afraid and disgusted. She'll be alive!
In his eyes, he is completely justified in what he's done, despite what Lois would have wanted. In fact, he killed Shazam for saying exactly that.
No, there have to be limits. Even on us. Especially on us. We can't do this. Have you gone nuts? Lois would never want it.
Destroy the child. Corrupt them all.
You can argue that this is more accurate to Superman as a character, but it isn't accurate to Injustice Superman. You gotta remember, this is a multiverse story. This Superman and this Superman are not the same, and acting like they're one and the same is dumb, because the only thing that matters is that Injustice Superman threw away everything he ever stood for and crossed every line imaginable. What he does goes beyond any reasonable justification, thus making him irredeemable, much in the same way that the Joker was. In that way, the Joker won. Superman became exactly what the Joker wanted him to become and did exactly what he wanted him to do. So trying to redeem him is like trying to redeem the Batman who laughs. You can't. Anyway, the movie ends with Superman giving up and going to prison. Good fucking God. Oh, and I never even mentioned the worst part of this movie. Harley Quinn. Every time she opens her mouth in this movie, I get the sudden, uncontrollable urge to do violence. I can complain for 3 hours why I hate this character, but instead, I'm gonna stop before I hurt myself or the people around me.
My pudding could light up a room.
This movie sucks. It's an awful movie and an even worse adaptation. It changes so many things from the original that is basically unrecognizable. Why is this even called Injustice when it doesn't even bother to get the most basic plot elements of any of the original source right? Neither the game nor the comics are done justice to any capacity. Maybe that's why it's called Injustice, because its very existence is a fucking injustice. And don't get me wrong, the game's story is by no means perfect, but the bare minimum I would expect from an adaptation is that they still keep the basic story and structure of the original, and they didn't even do that. Instead, they pulled elements from both the original game it was supposed to be adapting and its sequel and mixed them around so that the plot points become jumbled and, in the process, incoherent. And even if you remove it from its original context, it's still a bad movie that forsakes any sort of continuity for the sake of adding a million characters that do nothing but show up only to disappear just as quickly as they are introduced. It throws shit at the wall to see what sticks, but the turds that they decided to hurl are hard as rocks and nothing stuck. That wall is clean as a fucking whistle. But you know what? It's alright. You know why? Because the era of the evil Superman is over. We're on that hope type shit, baby! Whoa!